Ching Cafe. My name is Belinda Dovston, and it is our weekly I Ching overview for the week commencing the 29th of January 2024. Before we get into what this last week of January is asking us to pay attention to, let's recap last week. We had Hexagram 20 contemplation, those 4 changing lines, lots of action, and Hexagram 30 radiance, or the clinging. Really a doubling down last week on our call to see things differently. Get perspective, go up the tower, and broaden our view by shining our light much further beyond the immediate campfire, our immediate focus that we have been having, and seeing things in the periphery, seeing things from an elevated perspective, really intense with those 4 changing lines, asking us to see things in a new way, to get perspective, to do the strategic work, to see things from an angle, from a bigger picture, and to make better decisions because we have that perspective. I don't know about you, but last week was massive for perspective and for seeing things that haven't been seen before. So if you also had the experience like I do of massive realizations, please do share a comment, particularly that one changing line we had where we were asked to see things as an adult, not as a child. And I had this experience of 20 years ago suddenly pop into my mind, and I saw it with adult eyes, not with a child's eyes that says, it's mine. How could you do that? How could you say that? And like all those things we sit with in our child selves, and saw it with adult eyes. And I went, oh, that's awkward. Okay, so there was so much that came into my life last week with this contemplation, and hopefully for you as well, some wonderful insights that have liberated you and have put you into a much bigger perspective on yourself and how you fit into the world around you. So much so, I thought, actually, I need to do this Hexagram 20 contemplation as a deep dive hexagram. So in the next few days, I will release that video that if you'd like to work with this hexagram a lot more, join me for that episode when it lands. Okay, this week, let's get into the week of the 29th of Jan. A few days left here of January as we move into February. That also means that you can expect a February overview. So if you haven't yet worked with the January one, maybe go recap and rewatch the lessons that we were learning around the return, Hexagram 24 and Hexagram 19, the approach, a big energy approaching that which was small is small. So let's get into this week. Our first hexagram, our first focus for this week is a challenging hexagram, but it's okay, we'll get through it together. It's hexagram 38, opposition. As you know, this is the hexagram of oil and water, right? The 2 sisters who are at odds with each other, oil and water that don't easily meet or interact. It represents a situation where we feel oppressed, isolated, cut off, not understood, okay, at odds with the people around us. We're talking and we aren't heard. Like there isn't a connection. There isn't a flow of energy that is binding us all together. And so we'll be dialed in this week to some area where we feel opposition, where we feel someone doesn't understand us or we aren't understood, where we aren't on the same page. And it's not the energy of hexagram 6 where it's a conflict, okay, 2 bison bashing heads against each other. It's not an argument, it's a misunderstanding, okay? It's being cut off and out of sorts with the other, with the situation, with a partner, with a team member. And the process of the hexagram is helping us to work through what to do about it. How do we tap into this flow, right? How do we work with a strategy to help us overcome this moment and use our understanding of opposition to get somewhere this week? So with opposition, there are 2 paths we can take with a route forward. Sometimes opposition says, oil and water, there's diverging interests here, right? One party wants one thing, another party wants another thing, and we're actually so different in essential nature that it's time to call it quits, to recognize the divergence, okay? And that might be your experience of working with this hexagram. The other aspect of it, okay, which I think for most of us is actually the challenge. It's easy to say, oh, well, I'm going a different road to you. It's harder to stay in the game and find a new way forward. I love this idea that comes with this hexagram of turning conflict into creative tension. So taking the energy, this divergence of this opposition and finding a ways of binding it together. And so I often use this analogy of making mayonnaise. You've got your kind of vinegar base and you've got your oil, okay, so your oil and your water, and you've got the eggs that come in and they emulsify, they bring these two elements together and they turn them into something new, something that's cohesive, that's a new thing, right, that exists on its own, that has a different function altogether. So this week, wherever we feel this opposition, wherever we feel cut off, misunderstood, just like blocked, like there isn't flow, or someone's pushing back or doesn't want to hear our view, all those kinds of things. Wherever we hit that situation, our challenge is to say, let's not try and go into the situation to win, okay? It's not about getting my way or the other person getting their way or me conceding or them conceding. What we have to do is we have to find a solution that leverages on the strengths of both parties but make something new. We resolve the opposition by emulsifying something new, emulsifying our perspectives together into a new way forward. So it's challenging. We do want to win our side. We do want to say, well, we are right. And the other party says, we are right. Okay? That's not how we resolve this. We resolve this week. Whatever comes up for you as your opposition this week, even if it's an internal opposition, the way we resolve it is by finding something new that binds the opposing views together. Okay, a new way forward, a creative way to resolve the conflict. Even if it feels like these elements are held in tension, it's almost like with the mayonnaise example, these elements are presenting as mayonnaise, but they're actually elements that are held together in a particular way. There's a tension there. And that's okay. The creative tension is what we want to move towards, out of the conflict into the creative tension. So with this week, we're going to drill down into opposition. We're going to have our radar open to where we become aware of feeling not heard, feeling cut off or separated, or just out of sorts, out of connection with a person, a company, a partner, in a relationship, what might be this area of opposition that pops up into your mind to work with in a new way, because this is how the I Ching is helping us. Now, unlike last week where we had those 4 changing lines, meaning lots of change and intensity as we all went through that together, this week there are only 2 changing lines in the 5th and the 6th position. In the 5th position, okay, the other party, the friend, the partner that's coming to help us, they talk in the line about biting through the wrappings, right? Biting through and cutting through the things that are keeping people separated, okay? And you can imagine you're kind of surrounded in this hedge and you feel completely cut off. It's like thick bramble. You can have that image. And you hear this kind of hacking sound. And what happens is through this hedge, the friend, the helper, the connection, the partner hacks through that hedge with a giant axe and you are reunited. And what happens in this situation is we rush forward and we embrace that friend. Oh, I was stuck in this hedge. I was cut off and oppressed and feeling just, really separated from others. And you've done the work to cut through this hedge, and I'm going to embrace you and I'm going to thank you for getting me out of this position, getting out of the stuckness. That is the kind of energy we want to work with this changing line. So for us this week, pay attention, dial in to where a friend breaks through for us. The friend brings us the information. The helper brings us the information we need, brings us words of encouragement, for example, brings us data that this week, that reconnects us to what's on the outside of this hedged enclosure that we've become stuck in. And we celebrate that and we rush forward to that friend and we thank them and we celebrate the fact that this release process has come. So it's a wonderful changing line. We just got to be open to it, paying attention to where does that help come from to get us cut out of the wrappings that have tied us into this position of isolation, of feeling isolated and alone, okay? There's a process here where a friend comes to liberate us out of that isolation, and we celebrate it and we rush in to acknowledge that person, that entity that has reconnected us with the outside world. Okay, line 6, okay. This is the line where it says, along comes help. Da, 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 da. You can imagine the cavalry coming. We've had this changing line before, and you've got your bow and arrow. You're like, oh, defend, enemy. And you're about to release your arrows, and you realize, actually, this is a helper, and we should rather seek a marriage alliance than try and fight this. So this changing line says, value can come. We can be released from this opposition if we acknowledge that something coming along, whether it's a company, a partner, an individual, a family member, that someone coming along to help is actually a friend that we should seek an alliance with, a long-term marriage, a long-term connection with, rather than it being an enemy. So the way that I like working with this line is wherever you feel, when you meet someone or you encounter someone or you are, this cavalry is coming, right? Something arrives. If you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach of wanting to protect your castle, right? To defend yourself, or your mind goes to, well, what do they want? They're just going to take my stuff. Okay, they just come here to attack me. I'm at threat. I'm at risk. When those little thoughts bubble up out of the subconscious mind, think of this changing line and say, is this a case where I see an enemy, but it's not an enemy? It's a friend, it's a marriage alliance that I should seek out and embrace. And what does that mean for me? So both changing lines are all about getting out of the opposition, okay? In changing line 5, someone helps us break out and we need to acknowledge them and reach to them, right? In changing line 6, the cavalry is coming to help us. We have to see them as helpers, not as someone who comes to hurt us. So have a look. What are the entities, if you're in business, what are some of the partners or opportunities or stakeholders that come into your environment that come bringing opportunities and gifts and help? Do we see them as outlaws that are coming to hurt us, or do we see them as friends for a marriage alliance? And only we will know when that feeling of defend the castle pops up, right? When we feel that feeling, this changing line needs to pop into your mind to say, is this really true? Or is this the alliance that I have been looking for to help me move forward? So our second hexagram for the week, all right, how this is evolving. It's a hexagram that plays in parallel. I call it the victory hexagram. What is our path to victory? Okay, what does victory look like for this week? What are we transforming into as we work with opposition and these two changing lines? And it is hexagram 58, joy. We have not had joy on this channel for many, many years. And of course, recently we've had it come up. And here it is again. So themes continue. These new layers of joy coming in to bring us blessings. This hexagram is a doubling of lake upon lake. It is the innocent, wonderful, exuberant expression of joy, of sharing, of learning, of communicating, of interacting and exchange and training. I spoke about this hexagram being a hexagram that's all about sharing knowledge and communicating and collaborating, all right, with others in a very positive, high energy way. So when we get this hexagram, it's always encouraging us to open up and to express and to share and to give generously to others. To open the mouth, right, and express and to teach and to share your knowledge and to just be open to the energy of joy that comes to connect with us. So a very interesting hexagram. Joy is a beautiful hexagram where we are the teachers, we are the collaborators. It's asking us this week to bring in this energy, to be open, okay? And it's interesting with our opposition that what can happen when we're building our walls, okay, around us, and we're shutting our castle off, the big fat moat, right? And we build a big fat moat to protect ourselves from these invading armies that are actually friends. And we perhaps haven't seen the real friends trying to break through. What is the thing that's blocking us? But this joy comes to bring us the victory, brings us the opportunity of tapping into the expression and the sharing. So the way that we move out and through this opposition is we recognize others, we recognize the opportunity to share and to engage in a wonderful energy of peer collaboration, of sharing of ideas, and this interaction of learning. A wonderful hexagram that's asking us this week to really focus on communication with others and sharing and engaging with what we do. So a very interesting week of seemingly opposite ideas, okay? The path to joy, right? The victory is found through overcoming this opposition and following some of the simple advice that I Ching has for us this week to be tuned into where we need to break free of our thinking to get the help of others. Okay, this is all about people this week and others who we are collaborating with, reaching out to accept help. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you very soon for our monthly, and then we'll get going with our February weekly overviews. Keep your eyes open for that Hexagram 20 contemplation deep dive into the hexagram so we can work with that a little bit more over the weeks to come. And I wish you a fantastic, wonderful, joy-filled week where we overcome the opposition, we become mayonnaise, and we connect meaningfully with others. Until then, take care.